Good. Lydia, I'll defer to you. Have you picked a great question for Ted, please?
Absolutely. And I thank you to those who are asking questions and commenting on it. So I've got two questions here and they're a little related. So I'm going to combine them. And fundamentally, they're about food security, food affordability, and inflation and around the cost of production. At the same time, we're looking at there's increasing climate change, climate disasters. We're looking into researching increased efficiency that can only go so far when we're talking about our supply chain and different factors playing in. So the question is really around your thoughts around all of these complicating issues around food security, affordability, cost of production, and so on.
Well, let's try to unpack it a little bit. The food security issue is for real. And I would also say it's an issue that, and I'm going to start by talking at the global level first, then I'll come down to the Canadian level of it. But at the global level, there's no doubt in my mind that unless we have a major technology change in how we produce food where we don't need land, then we are going to have, in the not too distant future, a significant food security problem. It's beginning to unfold in front of our eyes, and it will continue, I think, to be pretty difficult, regardless of whether we have good crops in North America next year or not. We'll need two bumper years to make any difference at all, and we'll need a great crop out of South America too. So there is a global food security issue for sure. As I mentioned, some countries are becoming extremely dependent. I wish I had charts to go through this with you because it would be much easier. But one of the things that has caught my attention over the time is how much of the world's food is now supplied by trade as opposed to being grown locally. 20 years ago, it was a fairly small number. It was something around, about 12%. It's a big number now. It's getting closer to 20, up in that high teens. That's supplied globally, and that's very fragile. And anything can go wrong in that. And as I said, there are very few net exporters that are supplying most of it. So we have a big concentration issue. But if you take it down a notch to food security in Canada, that's a very different kettle of fish. We did a CAPI study on this a while back, and I remember when we were writing it, we said, why don't we just call it the 3 A's? There's 3 A's here. There's availability, accessibility, and affordability. Now, which of those apply? Well, it's pretty hard to argue that there's some availability problem in Canada. When we look at at what we're doing today, 70% of what we consume in Canada in terms of food is produced in Canada, and yet we still export 50% of what we produce. So we are wildly surplus, in the things. Now, from a preference basis, maybe you wouldn't be able to get everything you need, or I shouldn't say want, or you might have to pay through the nose to get it, but you're not going to starve to death if we can convert that in food. The only availability issue that we have in Canada that you can really put your finger on is that if you believe your food security is about processed foods, then we do have an issue, because we are by far the largest processed food importer in percentage. We're the US's massive customer for processed foods. The stuff that we send down there raw and bring back here, we're massive. And that we're bigger than in the high value added, consumer foods than Japan, Korea, China, and Hong Kong put together for the US, just to give you a little, idea of how important that is to them. So we do have that issue. But that's pretty fertile ground, because it allows, that means that, when we finally figure out what our competitive advantages are, we could build on that a little bit to do import replacement. But we don't have to worry too much about that, because there's plenty of the rest of the world that we can ship to. and we're already consuming a fair bit of our own. But when you get to the second piece of that, the accessibility issue, we do have a problem in Canada. There are parts of Canada that have accessibility problems. Certainly our, our native communities in the north have a big accessibility problem, and we need to help them solve that problem. And those are going to be technology solutions. And David, they're probably going to involve better energy solutions for them than they have today, so they can grow some of this stuff themselves in the north. So accessibility is an issue, but it's an even bigger issue for a lot of the world. And COVID is putting it on the map for sure, with the issues that we were running into with the logistics, as you and I were chatting about at the beginning of this, is that the logistics issue is going to make accessibility incredibly more difficult. And we're not done with it yet. That's for sure. We're not, as we go through this, we may have another round of logistic nightmares coming as China begins to lock down, when they're trying to deal with the Omicron. In terms of affordability, we do have a problem. Affordability in Canada, but that is not the key thing. Is that shouldn't be on the ag agenda. That belongs over on the social agenda, because that's about income. We can't solve affordability by essentially asking ag to solve that problem, and that's a problem that we need to push back hard on, because that's going to get us nowhere. So I think if you unpack that issue, it's a little easier. But I can't remember what the rest of the question was.
I think that covers all of it. Although